Tata Motors is back in South Africa. Well, they haven't really left. See, the commercial division has continued to operate. However, in 2019, the brand silently exited the market from a passenger car perspective, no longer selling things like the Bolt. And I remember having tested cars for over a decade. Tata passenger cars weren't the best, but neither were Chery and GWM products back in the day. And now look at them. They are competing for top 5 in the passenger car sales every month. And I think Tata have the same idea. They've brought 4 new models into South Africa to try and compete in the passenger car segment, 1 hatchback and 3 SUVs. And they've given them to us for a 24-hour period just to showcase what the brand has to offer. We will test them more thoroughly at a later stage, but let's give you a quick preview. So here we are aboard the Tiago. Now, before we drive Tata's most affordable passenger car, let's chat about the styling and the general appeal of the rest of the range and all 4 models. Now, this Tiago is the oldest car of the 4 here, and it's reflected in the way that it looks both from an exterior and an interior perspective. From the rear quarter panel, I see a bit of Ford Figo. I also see a little bit of the Indica and the previous Bolt that this car obviously is the successor to. And from an interior perspective, it's quite dated. Apart from this sort of steering wheel that's fairly common throughout the rest of the range, it looks fairly dated in here, but this is a budget-friendly hatchback, so I suppose I can forgive it being a little bit old because it is relatively affordable. Moving up the range, the Punch. To me, it's quite a generic-looking little crossover, sort of Suzuki Vitara Brezza, that previous generation model, mixed with some Mahindra. It's got a little bit of Citroen Aircross in it. It's got a little bit of Magnite and Kiger. It's got that same vibe about it, that generic crossover appeal. And I think South Africans generally like those cars. They're very solid in terms of monthly sales. Let me know what you think of the Punch in the comment section. And then we move up to the Curvv, which is a coupe style SUV. I think it looks pretty good. It's one of the more recent introductions by Tata, coming out in 2024. That coupe, that sloping roofline looks really good. Interior is nice. It's, I think, a very nice looking product. Let us know in the comments what you think about that. And then we move into the Harrier, which is the flagship within the Tata range. Also looks really good, mature, very nicely styled, a little bit more distinctive. Looks, the Curvv and the Harrier for me are more distinctive as Tata products than the other 2. I can generally identify them and pick them out of a crowd, whereas I don't think, especially with the Punch, I'd be able to tell you what that is on initial glance. It's got a fairly generic look to it. But overall, I think products look fairly good. Let me know in the comment section. Let us know in the comment section which one you think is best. And I think with that, let's get to driving all of them. So here we are aboard Tata's Tiago. This is one of South Africa's cheapest cars. The one I'm driving is around 210,000 Rand. You can get an even more basic version for 185,000 Rand, or you can get the one I'm driving here, which is a slightly higher spec model with an AMT, an automated manual gearbox. Although I have to say, I'm yet to find an AMT that I like. In fact, the Renault Kwid that I drove with an AMT is still the worst new car I've tested in 13 years. So I'm not a big fan of AMTs. But to be honest, initial impressions from this manual, I just really dislike this clutch action. I think for the person who's going to be buying this car, it's generally going to be a first-time user or a first-time car buyer, a student, things of that nature. This clutch action takes a really long time to get used to. It's really hard to modulate and to get a good feel for it. Gearbox itself is fine, engine as well, perfectly fine, decent amounts of power and torque. Gearbox throws are relatively long, but not overly so. It's just that clutch action. General fit and finish is okay. There's lots of hard plastics in here. You do get a little touchscreen infotainment system by Harman, which has got Apple CarPlay and Android Auto in this variants that we have here. This multifunction steering wheel here looks okay, but this panel, this gloss black panel here, is going to look terrible in a few years' time with extended use, as will these seats, which are like a light gray color. That's not going to age well with people getting in and out of the cars. They're going to look really dirty after a while. These door cards as well, and these side pillars here are all in this sort of cream color. It's not going to age particularly well. It does make the interior look a bit bigger, a little bit airier, but for the South African market, I don't think that works particularly well. I will be interested to compare this to its budget car contemporaries, but for now, I don't think this is a particularly bad car. I just think it's relatively old within the market, and I don't think it really stands out. Nothing shouts, this is amazing value to me in the market. I think it's just one of those things that you should tick off and drive when you are looking for a new car. Nice thing is, at the price point, you do get a 2-year 30,000 kilometer service plan and a 5-year 125,000K warranty on these, which is nice. If this is your first car, at least you know in the first 2 years of ownership, most of your service costs will be taken care of, bar you needing to put on a tire from a pothole or something of that nature. It is nice to see a service plan included in what is a very low list price. I think I just need to spend a bit more time with it to truly know what this Tiago's got to offer. This is literally a drive around the block. Yeah, that clutch is difficult. I've gotten a bit more used to it now on this drive, but it's really challenging. Anyway, let's hop into the Punch, which is the brand's newer compact crossover that was introduced in 2021. It's got an AMT though, so wish me luck. So here we are aboard the Tata Punch, sort of second from entry level model after we've now driven the Tiago. This is a newer car than the Tiago, and you can tell immediately when you hop inside, you got this nice little floating infotainment system. This is obviously one of the more flagship models within the range. This one doesn't have a sunroof, although I believe you can get them in certain models and as an option. Little floating screen, digitized instrument cluster, reasonable amounts of space in terms of rear occupant space and in terms of the boot, for around the 300,000 Rand mark if we take the whole range as an average. That's what you're looking at, sort of 250 to 330-ish, around there. You're getting a car that's bigger than your traditional hatchback, slightly elevated ride position, and it's not too bad in terms of quality in here. I mean, it's par for the segment really. If you're looking at the likes of the Nissan Magnite and the Renault Kiger Cherry Tiggo 4 Pro Lit, even a Suzuki Fronx, which I think is a smaller car than this, all things considered. Now, driving this car, obviously this is a very brief driving impression. I've only had the car for the past 10 minutes, but immediately something has jumped out at me, and it's this gearbox. It is an AMT, so an automated manual gearbox, effectively the same gearbox that you would get in the standard manual version of the Punch, just with a roboticized function to control the clutch and gear shift action. And well, I really don't like AMTs. It just feels clunky. It feels confused at low speed. When it changes gears, it feels like there's this enormous loss of power before it comes back in again. It's really changing gears for you. So when you simulate it changing gears, depressing the clutch, putting it into gear, and then carrying on, you can kind of time it to be that way. So if I change gears here, simulate the clutch, it's like someone changing gears really slowly, and I just really don't like it. I mean, you'd have to make peace with it if you wanted one of these cars and you wanted an automatic, but personally, I just don't like AMTs. I would prefer a CVT, or if you really want a Punch, I would probably go for the manual derivative. We will get this car and compare it to its key rivals in a proper video in the near future, but for now, I'm not sold on this AMT gearbox. I would like to experience the manual version. Other than that, quite a nice little compact crossover in the budget segment. Obviously, you're not going to expect the last word in quality and materials here. There's a lot of hard plastics in here, particularly on the dashboard, but overall design is pretty good, and it's a reasonably practical little car. This is obviously in the budget segment of the market. Not too bad, but I don't know if I can get on board with this gearbox, to be honest. Let's hop into the Curvv, which to me looks like a lot more premium of a product. So here we are aboard the Tata Curvv, which is one step above the Punch in terms of the local lineup. It is a larger coupe style SUV, and immediately the first impressions are this is a much higher quality product than the Punch, and it should be. Starting price is 350,000 Rand, and this flagship model that I'm driving here is over 500,000 Rand. Now, the engine is a turbocharged version of the 1.2 litre seen in the Punch and in the Tiago. It's got a lot more power and torque, which we'll put on the screen now. It's also got a DCT gearbox, and immediately just a much nicer car to drive. Obviously a more expensive, more upmarket car, but it is better to drive. You get the same infotainment system, super easy to use, easy to pair my phone to Apple CarPlay. There's also wireless Android Auto, a nicer digitized instrument cluster, and a JBL sound system, which should be pretty good quality. JBL make very nice products. Inside, material quality is a big step up, a lot more soft touch. I think it's faux leather covering everything in here, but still rather nice. The steering wheel with this large bar across it here in gloss black looks nice initially, but as I saw in the Tiago, it starts to look a bit grimy after a while, unfortunately. Practicality seems decent. The boot is quite big for a car in the segment, and I think it's going to make for a very interesting comparison versus some of the South Korean, Japanese, and indeed the Chinese rivals that we aim to put it up against in the future. But enough about the Curvv, let's hop into the Harrier, which is the brand's flagship. See you there. So here we are inside the flagship Tata. This is the Harrier, full-size SUV from the brand. Pricing starts at 550,000 Rand, goes up to 700,000 Rand. The platform is Land Rover's D8, which is what underpinned the first generation Range Rover Evoque and the Land Rover Discovery Sport. The engine is a Fiat Multijet 2-litre turbo diesel paired with a 6-speed automatic gearbox. Fit and finish inside here is really nice as well. Big color touchscreen infotainment system, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, digitized instrument cluster, JBL sound system, a little pad here with haptics to change the climate control, which I don't like. This is going to look terrible once you start putting fingerprints and making it all grubby over there. It's going to look really bad, as will the steering wheel. But everything else is really quite nice. I'm very excited to compare this to its key rivals. This is a diesel SUV in 2025. You can only really get that from Hyundai and Kia, really. Kia is the big proponent of this with their 1.6 turbo diesel, but this being a nice torquey 2-litre, it's quite impressive. I'm really impressed by this. I'd like to spend a bit more time with it. I'm sure there will be some quirks and idiosyncrasies, but on initial impressions, this is definitely the best of the bunch so far. It is obviously the most expensive as well, but really nice work from Tata here. You can see the Jaguar Land Rover partnership really coming to fruition here. It's pretty good. So that's all 4 Tata models. Just a brief introduction for you. We will be getting them, as I said, for extended tests, and we'll do some comparisons and a more in-depth review on them. Let us know what you think of the new Tata passenger car range in South Africa. Would you consider one? Do you think that they have what it takes to compete in an increasingly competitive market space where we have the influx of Chinese models, but also traditional brands launching models in this sort of 200 to 700,000 Rand price bracket constantly? If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the AutoTrader YouTube channel. Like this content if you've enjoyed it. Interact with us in the comment section below. We really appreciate your support. Until next time, thank you for watching. Cheers.